Hi, I'm Gary Zacharias. Welcome again. This is our 6th video. We've been talking about single paragraphs, having good topic sentences, having enough support, having a good concluding sentence, and then we said when you put the paragraphs together to form an essay, how do you pull off an essay? It requires some special tricks of the trade. So we talked about a good intro. That was our 4th video. We talked about good body paragraphs. You need several of those to prove your point. That was the last video that we did. And so this one we're going to look at conclusions to an essay. And a lot of people say, well, I know what I want to say, I don't know how to wrap it up at the end. So again, if you would take a look at the textbook, this is that English Essentials book, send it to you free, PDF, just email me. And I am on page 10 when it talks about concluding paragraphs, and the key thing there is the first sentence. Make sure you don't introduce something new. Don't tell a new story. Don't bring up a new point of support. You're done with your support. You use the body paragraphs for all your support. All you want to do now is just gracefully leave the scene. So I said you could just wrap up. Just remind people of what you accomplished. So you might think of it this way, like we said before, with a single paragraph, this time for a multi-paragraph. Tell people what you're going to tell them. That's your thesis. Then tell them, those are your body paragraphs, and now tell them what you just told them. So it's just a reminder. All right? So maybe that little device will stick in your head. But you can do other things besides just remind people of what you said. So let me walk through some of these essays that are coming up here in the next few pages. All we're going to do is just look at the last paragraph and let us begin to think about how are we ending these things. So let's take a look. The first one is about how to succeed in college. It was on page 11. And the last paragraph says this: college can be a great experience. It's a shame that roughly 50% of the students, etc., where is that 50% of the students coming from? Go back to the first paragraph, top of the page there. Second sentence. Roughly 1 out of every 2 new students has quit college. Isn't that terrible? That's an awful statistic. So now I'm taking us back. That's called full circle. I started with that scary, shocking statistic, 1 out of 2. I've told my story, or I've done my essay, and now I've taken people right back to the top. I said, it's a shame that roughly 50% of the students I see in the fall are not there the next year. I tell each class this horrifying statistic, and I do see many students succeed, but the others have missed a golden opportunity to improve themselves, their families, and their country. What am I doing there? I'm giving what's called a look to the future. That's a really popular way to end an essay. So I have said, here are the success skills that you need. I went down a list, and then I said, if you don't follow them, if you don't feel that it's important, you can end up losing a golden opportunity to improve themselves, their families, and their country. So it's kind of a warning or a look to the future of what they might encounter out there if they follow through on whatever your topic is. Let's try the next one. It's called Drug Myths and Realities. And again, you don't need to read the whole thing, but my point was that I had read an article, and the article changed my mind about what I thought went on in the world of drug addicts. So page 13, take a look. Here's my last paragraph. I was glad I read the interview with Dalrymple. That's that magazine. That was in the first paragraph. He shook up many of my ideas about drug addiction. Do you hear the echo of my thesis? There it is again. It's reminding, it's reinforcing the reader of what my main point was. We have to know what we're fighting if we want to limit the damage that's done to our society by those hooked on drugs. What is that? That's a look to the future again. We want a society where we have fewer people that are on drugs, fewer people that are just hurting their chances and people around them. So we want to limit the damage. How do we do that? Paying attention to this essay. How about the one called Finding the Right Career? Again, no need to read it, but it was an article I read by 2 authors, and they're talking about ways to choose the right career. Okay, I'm on page 14. Here's the final paragraph. Of course, people can read books on careers, take vocational aptitude tests, and talk to counselors when they're considering a future career. But simply following the advice of Miller and Olasky, who are they? They're the people I mentioned at the very beginning. So what did we do? I mentioned them, I told you some of the advice they gave, and now we're back to the beginning again. You hear the echo of what was in the beginning. So anyway, following the advice of these two people would be a good step for anyone wondering what they'll be doing for the next 30 to 40 years of their lives. The next 30 to 40 years. I'm throwing it out into the future there. I'm saying, follow this advice. It'll make a difference in your life. The next one is called Four Cardinal Virtues. That was a longer essay. The concluding paragraph is on page 16. And notice how I'm ending here. Ancient societies had thought long and hard about virtues that would make them stronger. Prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude are not just for ancient times, though. What are those for? Those are those four virtues that I've spent the whole paper talking about. So I'm reminding again. We can cultivate these same virtues by looking at ourselves honestly to see which virtues we need to work on, reading about those who model such virtues, cutting back on behavior that limits such virtues. TV watching comes to mind as a starting point. Cultivating friendships with people that demonstrate these virtues and carrying out each day small acts of virtue. So there's my wrap up. Let's use these virtues. So that whole essay is about the virtues, and I'm just reinforcing that at the end. Next one is Legacy of the Pilgrims. That one ends on page 17. So I was trying to tell people all the way through here about the Pilgrims and the Puritans and the first people that came to America, and how even though they're gone, many of the things that they emphasized and that they loved made the country what it is today. So here's my conclusion. So the legacy of the Puritans and Pilgrims is not negative. I mentioned at the beginning that a lot of people have a negative view of them. I'm saying it's not negative. So I'm reinforcing what I said at the beginning. It's much more than just celebrating Thanksgiving once a year. We owe the values of the United States, which allowed it to achieve so much in the world, to these misunderstood people. So there I am, just saying they had value, they had positive attributes for this country. And I mentioned it again at the end. Okay, can we do a couple more here? Page 19, this is the end of an article that I wrote about science fiction and how it should be something a serious reader considers, not just somebody who's trying to waste some time. So here's my final paragraph, 19, page 19. Science fiction has taken a bad rap as far as serious literature goes. That's what I said at the beginning. Part of it's deserved, since there are a lot of poorly written stories, but that doesn't take away from the fact that science fiction can not only entertain but do so much more. That's what I said at the beginning and all through my essay. The joy of good science fiction is evident when the reader can go from the current world to a hypothetical world and back to confront the real world again. Science fiction can be important to you for a better understanding of yourself and the world you live in, both as it is now and what it might be someday. So again, you see that look to the future? It's good for you right now to know science fiction in some sense for your future and for the future of the world. Then I had one on page 19. It was a story of how to get involved if you're interested in astronomy at all, how to get a telescope. It's a longer article again. Go to page 21. Don't let this discussion scare you into thinking the decision is too difficult or that you'll need a huge telescope, for any enjoyment. If you are confused, it's better to get one too small than too big. You can learn on the small one and sell it if you want a bigger one. There's a lot in the sky to keep people amazed and inspired regardless of their abilities or the telescopes they use. Just walk outside, look up, and see what's waiting for your own personal voyage of discovery. What am I doing there? Does that sound familiar? I've been doing it all during these conclusions. I'll look to the future. It can make a difference in your life. You can have a good time. You can get out and explore the universe. Okay, I've got three more, but I think you've got the idea. So when you're writing a conclusion, try to make it echo whatever it is you're saying in your entire paper. Remind people over and over again. You can't tell them too many times. But it's pretty boring just to say, so here's what I've said. You might even do, I do want to show you one more. There's another way that you can end this thing. Let me take you to page 25. You turn to page 25. I was talking about the value of the Bible beyond just simply the theology of it, sin and redemption and all that sort of stuff. That this is looking at the stories that are in the Bible and the parables and the wisdom that's in the Bible. Okay, here's my last paragraph, page 25. Recent research and interviews have found that outstanding teachers and department chairs All believe knowledge of the Bible is crucial for good education and provides an educational advantage. Those interviewed say the Bible is the key book for high school students to know if they plan to go on with their schooling. Now I could have just ended there, but what am I trying here? Look at this last sentence. Someone once said it best. The Bible is the learned man's masterpiece, the ignorant man's dictionary, the wise man's directory. Do you see the quotation marks? We've talked about starting an essay with a good quotation. That's great. That's powerful. It's got some punch to it. But you can place that quotation at the end. If you've been talking about love, find a good quotation about love at the end. If you've been talking about family, find a good quotation about family. Put that at the end. Something about wars, put that comment at the end. That's powerful. That shows you did a little research for this. So I hope this was helpful. We've been talking about the essay, talking about how to get it going, body paragraphs, and how to end it. We'll do kind of a summary next time. That'll be number 7. And then we want to move to how you can pull off a good essay. And I'm going to give you some advice. Maybe I'll put those together with the summary and the essay outline. So we'll talk about this. I hope it's been helpful. And thank you for joining me. And see you next time.